Hello everyone, welcome to The Old Man and the Read. My name is Jerry. Today's video I'm going to discuss the books I read in the month of October. I didn't get quite as much read this month as I normally do. I think I have 8 books. But my wife and I did a little bit of traveling this month. We actually made a road trip to the Bay Area in near San Francisco to visit my daughter and her family and to see our 2 grandkids there. It was a great trip. You know, we're one of those families that all of our kids live in different states, so we don't get together that often, but when we do, it's a lot of fun. My daughter has just 2 amazing kids that we got to visit with and really enjoyed it. And my granddaughter just recently graduated from high school, so you know they're at a great age to just sit down and talk to. But anyway, I'll show you the books that I read in October. The first book I read is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. This is a book that came out in 2022. But this basically follows a young man nicknamed Demon who was born in Appalachia. He was born to a drug-addicted teenage girl, and she then later marries a just really very abusive man named Stoner. She eventually, as the story goes on, she dies from a drug overdose, and then Demon is put into foster care, and he struggles with all of that, lots of really just dire events, and then he runs away to his grandmother's house, and there he becomes involved in football, but then is injured and becomes addicted to the same drug that killed his mother, and it's just a whole series of misfortunes for him. The next book was A River Town by Thomas Keneally, published in 1995. I read a lot of Keneally's books, and this is the first one in a few years. But this is a historical novel that takes place in the early 1900s, Northern Australia. And it follows Tim Shea. He's a really decent man, but he has a knack for getting himself in trouble, and it's usually because of his pride. But the story just follows just his many difficulties, and this is during a period when a plague was raging in Australia. The next book is Hadj Morat by Leo Tolstoy. First Tolstoy I've read in quite a number of years. This one was published in 1912, and it follows Hadj Morat. He's a devout Muslim Chechen rebel, but he has a falling out with his commander named Shamil, and Barrett's family is taken into captivity by the commander. In order to gain release from, of his family, Morat decides to join the opposing Russian forces. He offers to fight with them if they will aid him in getting his family released. Next book I read was Slapstick by Kurt Vonnegut, published in 1976. And again, one of those writers I've read an awful lot of books from, but this is one that I hadn't read before. But this is Vonnegut's look at apocalypse only as Vonnegut could do. It's written as if it's an autobiography by Wilbur Daffodil 11 Swain. And he's nearing 100 years and is living in what is remains of the Empire State Building. While he's there, Manhattan is basically a deserted island. When he was born, he had a twin sister, and they were both born just hideously grotesque and very tall. Their parents thought that they were mentally disabled for quite a few years because the two kids just grunted. But then the mother overheard them talking and discovered they were super intelligent, and so they panicked and set up the two kids in a separate house from them, and they would only visit them once a year. But Wilbur ends up growing up to become president, the last president of the United States. But in the meantime, the Chinese had been developing, shrinking their people in order to, and because of the overpopulation of China, making more room for people, and they started shrinking them so much that the people began being inhaled by other people, and this caused a plague. The next book is Dancing Girls by Margaret Atwood, published in 1977, and this is a short story collection. Some of the stories I'll mention. One titled The War in the Bathroom, and this is about a woman who's moved into a very dumpy boarding house, and she has issues that arise over the shared bathroom. Under Glass, and this is about a woman who talks about the really miserable creep who is her boyfriend, but how she loves him in spite of his disgusting behavior. Another story is When It Happens, and this is an older woman who's fantasizing about the end of civilization and what she would do if it occurred. And then the last one I'll mention is Dancing Girls, and this is a young woman who is also living in a boarding house. She has an Arab man living in the room next door, and he throws a party with dancing girls. The next book I read is Lunar Follies by Gilbert Santino. This was published in 2005. This is another of Sorrentino's books that are just a whole series of just small vignettes, and these are a lot of them rather experimental type stories, but I'll mention a few of them. One is Eratosthenes, and this is about a map that Eratosthenes drew back in the year 240 BC. Another Fra Moreau, and this is just a long list of people's names with very often insulting short descriptions of those people. Another titled J. Herschel, and this is just a whole series, 2 pages of short sentences that each begin with J. Herschel and then say something about him. And then the last one is Pythagoras. This is a longer 5-page, but it's a list of a series of exhibits in the Iconocult Museum, and each of the exhibits features a famous musician or artist. Next, last 2 books I read are both sci-fi books. This is The World Inside by Robert Silverberg, published in 1971, and this is Silverberg takes us to the year 2381. Almost all of humanity is living in 1,000-story buildings. They're called urbans, and they're overcrowded. With each of the buildings has about 800,000 people in it. The total world population is 75 billion, and it's a world in which there's complete total sexual freedom, and the men every evening go out to what is called night walking, and they have sex with somebody else's wife. But the story follows mostly is about Michael, who's discontent, doesn't feel as part of the urban world he's in, and he wants to go out and see the world itself, and he manages to finally escape from that urban. They don't allow it at all, and don't allow people to leave at all from those buildings. But he gets out, and he gets into an agricultural world that's populated by just a small number of people who raise all of the crops for the rest of the world, and they live in a very strict sexual society. And the last book I have is The Word for World is Forest by Ursula K Laguin, published in 1972. And this is Earth has colonized a planet named Athshi. The humans are there to cut down the forest for the world, or for the wood. And the planet is inhabited by a very peaceful, non-aggressive group of people who are about the size of 6-year-olds, called Athesians. The humans have enslaved the Athesians, and because they're so mild and passive, they obey everything they're told. But after a few years, a revolt occurs, and the Athesians kill all of the humans in a village. This creates an ongoing conflict, and in the meantime, the orders from Earth are to stop confrontation, and the humans eventually abandon the planet. But now the peaceful Athesians have learned how to kill. So those are the books I read in October. Some really good ones, a little peculiar. A couple of them were a little strange. But anyway, I want to thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again. Thanks.